In a forgotten land, on the edge of the Black Sea, one girl will speak the language of legends.
Stay close by my side.
Yuri was born in a world of hunters and monsters, where magic is feared and creatures called the Ochi are hunted to extinction.
People say it's a dangerous place. There are bears and wolves and something else.
But when she saves one of the Ochi, she discovers a gift no one expected: the power of understanding.
You're not like they say.
Now she's running from her father, her fate, and everything she's ever known to protect a creature they call a curse.
He's my friend.
In a world built by puppets and heart comes a new adventure in the spirit of the never-ending story and the Dark Crystal.
Stay close by my side. I can talk to you!
The Legend of Ochi. Some languages speak straight to the soul. Welcome to the Burnt or Buttered Podcast.
That was good.
First take.
First take. Legend of Ochi. Here we go. Burnt or buttered.
I'm Toast.
I'm Stetson, and welcome to the Burnt or Buttered podcast, where we talk about movies.
And today, as you may know, we're talking about the Legend of Ochi.
Yeah, and don't get confused that synopsis was not produced by
By A24.
by A24.
That's a burnt or buttered exclusive.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, this movie was super unexpected. One, we went and saw it for Monday Mystery Movie. So when we went into this movie, we had no idea what it was going to be. We thought potentially it could be The Legend of Ochi just by run times and stuff. But yeah, we were surprised by it, and even more surprised by the actual movie, because I had never seen a trailer for this movie at all. I had no idea what this movie was about, other than seeing the poster.
Yeah, I saw the poster and I thought for sure this is an anime. You know, I thought it was animated, and I was ready for it, but I thought I was ready for it. I was not ready for it.
Yeah, definitely not ready for it. This movie sets a huge tone right at the very beginning. Like, you're understanding the lore of the Ochi from the beginning. You're understanding that there's monsters and you're hunting them. Kind of from the trailer that you just heard, you hear Yuri describe the Ochi. And the first opening scene is them going on a hunt. William Dafoe and a vagabond bunch of young kids.
Mostly boys, one girl, Yuri. And apparently these Ochi have been such a problem. They stole his wife. They are killing all these sheep and everything else, everything that these people rely on this small island, supposedly.
Mm-hmm. And these kids have been offered up by their parents as young warriors to go out and try and stop the Ochi from killing, their animals and everything else, just causing all the problems that's happening in this village. William Dafoe is William Dafoe and super interesting. William Dafoe, I feel like, has found his love for the weirdness in the last 5 years or so. It feels like everything he does is like uber dramatic and just crazy.
He doesn't really do any normal characters. I cannot think of a single normal character Willem Dafoe's ever done. But yeah, he's really doing these art house type movies now.
The Lighthouse,
the Poor Things.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of weird, strange characters.
And this one's no different. Yuri the one qualm that I had with Yuri is half of the movie at the very beginning. Well, the first probably 3/4 of the movie, you struggle hard to understand what she's trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of mumbling. I feel like I almost thought that maybe it was in a different language, at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just catching bits. There's been no other movie I've been in the theaters where I just wished that there was captions.
Totally. I was wishing there was captions, just like when we saw Tenet. Her voice is really low decibel. It's raspy, and she has an accent, so it's hard to understand her.
It's
But
and it's soft spoken.
it's very soft. But I also think that is part of the narrative, is that she is struggling to find her voice because her dad is such a he's the only role model that she has. Her mom isn't in the house. And so her dad is this boisterous, loud, I'm the man type character. And so she is kind of shrunk into herself and doesn't realize who she is or how much of a voice she actually has, how much people care about her, until she's with the Ochi and she risks it all.
Yeah. I could see that, but also just make it a little bit more clear.
Definitely make it, at least put subtitles.
Yeah,
if
do
you want to do
something.
that, make it so that the audience can understand what she's saying, because she's the main character.
Yeah, and she's describing important things. Like I would pick up like every third word. I'm like, is that what she's saying? Is that what she's meaning?
And it was just enough to keep the movie going.
Yeah. But it shot really well. It shot in definitely a huge influence from Wes Anderson. There's so much of Wes Anderson type shots in this film.
And the tone of the movie is very Wes Anderson.
Even the color grade of it felt very Wes Anderson, where there's like a lot of pops of color, but also like muted, sides of color. Like the landscapes that were in this movie were incredible. And it was hard to tell which landscapes were created through like claymation or painted, animated somehow. There was such a mixture of worlds like inside of the film that you're getting hints of freaking the Gremlins, you're getting hints of the Goonies, you're getting hints of E.T., the Never-Ending Story. Like you have a lot of different kind of nostalgic feelings like going through this movie. And it's a movie where you're sitting there kind of not knowing if you want to like it or not. At least for me. Like I'm sitting there watching it and I'm just like, this is weird, but I like weird a lot of the time. But then, is it too weird?
Yeah, because it has to be good weird, right? You mentioned a few things that that Isaiah Saxon drew from in writing and directing this. I also felt like it had a huge Studio Ghibli influence. Like every shot looked like it could be an anime shot, which made it incredibly beautiful. And then also Hunt for the Wilder People. I felt like in tone, in shots, in all of the dramatics, it felt like Hunt for the Wilder People, which I loved. And so for me, I think I was hooked by the first scene, honestly, with Willem Dafoe being so weird and all of the Ochi running around.
Yeah.
And
The hunting scene was pretty wild. And I was too. Like the first 5 minutes of the movie, like, dang, this is going to be good. And then slowly it just like goes down the path of like ridiculousness. And you're like, yeah, I do like this, but is it too slow? Is it too weird? Like, am I really falling in love with, what they're trying to portray here? Yeah. I kind of went back and forth into it until the crescendo of the last 10 minutes of this movie just get wild.
oh yeah. Oh, it got wild. And I looked over during this crescendo, and Stetson was sobbing, just absolute tears running down his face. And Admittedly, my eyesight was a little foggy because of tears streaming down my face. And that's when I knew Stetson and I are on the same level.
Well, so we were on different levels for sure, because this there's tons of spoilers in this podcast, anyways. But the last scene where she starts walking into the water towards the Ochi, the mother Ochi, and William Dafoe gets into the water, puts her on his shoulders, and lifts her up, and she starts singing the Ochi song, and everyone's like coming through. I just found it so freaking.
Flute.
Yeah, the flute. The mom comes out of the woodworks.
There was so much tension. Something was going to happen.
Yeah.
Somebody was going to die. And then all of a sudden, this crescendo of music and of noises, and it's so beautiful. And all the Ochi start chiming in together. And it's like, if you have the skills, nobody can deny you anything, you know?
And so they're doing their song to each other because they're just harmonizing and everything else. And I just was busting up laughing like crazy. And I was laughing so hard that I started crying. And I couldn't stop laughing because I thought, anybody looking at me right now, because it was an emotional spot in the movie where you could be crying, like, because it's beautiful, but I was laughing. But anyone looking at me would definitely think that I'm just sobbing, crying, because I can't stop laughing.
And I started, it actually got me. Like, it was such an emotional moment. It actually got me. And I actually did start crying. And then I heard Stetson laughing through his sobs. And then I thought to myself, wait, why is this getting to me? This is so like cheesy and so wild, but it's because all of it came together in that moment. It was such a powerful, all of it just worked together.
Well, it was definitely like an E.T. moment where you feel the emotions that this child has grown with this baby Ochi. Like, they do a great job fostering that relationship and showing the depth of care where Yuri is even willing to kind of die. Like, she gets bit by the Ochi and her arm was just like falling off. She's like, oh, it's okay. I know you didn't mean it, type thing. And she just like has fallen in love with this and understands that it's misunderstood. And she's always been misunderstood, and so they're connecting in this, E.T. way. And, there's just a lot of layers to this, where you can laugh at it. Also, you can feel really sad. You can feel like a lot of joy. And just the journey that he takes you on, this kind of Wes Anderson-esque journey of, scenes that develop and just areas that they end up in are beautiful and interesting and colorful, and the people are reacting in ways that you wouldn't really think of.
Yeah. For me, it was a really interesting movie. It's definitely one that takes its time with itself. It's not going to be fast-paced. There are certain scenes that are fast-paced, but it really likes to take its time with itself on each scene and let the things sink in.
Yeah. There's a lot of depth to each character. You have the adopted boy that wants to prove himself to William Dafoe, but also knows that he's not. William Dafoe really isn't the shiz, like he's just a crazy guy that he's kind of like, but he's decided that he's his father figure.
When he starts singing, when Willem Dafoe starts singing at the dinner table, and Yuri's like, oh, and Finn Wolfhard is like, amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing. And she's like, that was dumb. That sucked. Like, she's able to tell the truth.
I don't need your knife because it's dumb and I'm strong and smart.
Yeah, the note was perfect.
The note was so funny.
And then the mom has a lot of depth to her, that she just goes out into the forest and like was taken by the Yuri because she, loves them or understands them.
Yeah, the dad makes it sound like she got, murdered or kidnapped or whatever, but she just went away because she didn't like him.
Yeah, that's just the fact of it, that she just didn't like him, and he just couldn't come to terms with that. But the idea of her mom teaching this baby how to speak the Ochi stuff and her just forgetting it somehow, and that was a little bit. That was where like the funny side of it came into me, like when they start speaking the Ochi language and just how it comes out their mouth, and that's where I was just like, this is ridiculous.
At first, I thought that her understanding was like some hallucinogenic in the bite. And
It definitely makes you feel like that because she gets bitten and all of a sudden
then
she's like,
boom, now
I can
speak.
understand you. Yeah, I thought that's how it was too, where you have to get bit to then be able to understand the language. But turns out
You actually lose your arm if you get it. And you don't get this serum or whatever. But
yeah. But yeah, there's just a lot of layers to this movie that were unexpected. You know, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy the character building of this world that I think was done in a way better way than a lot of films do.
yeah, I found it very interesting. The characters had depth, like you said. Visually, it was so stunning. I was locked in. It was like, I wouldn't say it's on the level of Nosferatu, but that was the closest that I've felt.
What?
Visually impacted since Nosferatu.
I don't think so. I think Sinners is just like literally is just on par with this visually. I think that Nosferatu is like way above this movie when it comes to like lighting and color and depth of like the scene and
We
the
see
reveals.
different movies, man. Because this, like, every shot was so thought out.
You think
in
so?
Legend of
I
Ochi.
thought it was good. I thought it was good, but I was like, that's a very beautiful scene, but I wasn't thinking that was beautiful cinematography or that was beautiful lighting. That was beautiful, just scene building in the way of I could just stare at that as if it's a painting.
Oh, man. There were definitely shots like that for
I
me.
didn't get it. I mean, I thought it looked good. I just didn't think like Nosferatu was just a master class.
Yeah.
You know, like
I'm not saying it's Nosferatu level, but I'm saying that's the most excited visually I've been since Nosferatu.
yeah. It was different for sure. It was different in the way of like it had an interesting style along the lines of like a Wes Anderson film
Right.
where it's beautiful, it's shot different, like it has it has a style, but wasn't anything crazy special. I think it's just on par with a Wes Anderson film.
Well, different strokes.
Sweet. Well, should we get into the final pop on this one?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, for me, The Legend of Ochi, I am going to give this thing a 3.5.
I knew it.
I'm going to give it a 3.5 because I think it was good. It was good. It was entertaining. It was shot really beautifully. I feel like I'm taking into account the layman, the average person.
Yeah.
And I think the average person is just going to find this thing to be average.
It's going to be a...
Yeah. And so taking into account the average person, I think me personally, I would probably, if it was just me, not thinking about anybody else that's going to watch this film, it would be like a 4 for me.
Yeah.
But 3.5, I think that there's going to be a real big cult following around this film. I think it's going to be one of those where we look at it as if it's a never-ending story type of a film that is nostalgic, that, in 15 years from now, people will still be watching it. 15, 20 years from now, they'll watch it again and be like, that was really, really good.
It's definitely going to be somebody's favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that somebody is going to be some kid who wants to watch it a million times, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for me, I think similarly. I think for me it was probably about a 4, but I definitely understand that a lot of people aren't going to like this. It's not going to be the movie for everybody. It really, like I said, it takes its time with itself. It's if you don't have the attention span for it, then you're not going to care about it. If you're not willing to fall into this ethereal, like mystical land with random monkey-looking Furby creatures, then you're not going to like it. You know, if you can't get into that world, then you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
But if you can, it's going to be great for you. So
Yeah, same thing with like the Never Ending Story or Labyrinth or something that.
Yeah.
You know, that's really wacky.
Yeah.
Pretty out there. Well, sweet. Yeah, let us know what you think of our intros with just our updated synopsises of what we're doing. We're trying to get better and better with these. We have some fun ideas coming up for some more podcasts. We have a skit that's going to be coming out with Black Bag that we think is going to be fun. Yeah, but just let us know what you think. You know, whether you really disagree with us and we think we're big dumb dummies, or you think that you felt similar about this movie too. Let us know.
Yeah, and let us know. You know, if you think that that we're real dumb.
All right. Well, we'll see you in the next one.